Jesus, man,
Those were the last moments of Brandi Celenza, because her husband, Keith Johansen, over here, would stay true to his words and shoot her dead. 3 weeks later, on the 27th of April, police arrest Keith after finally getting access to the home security camera recording. But Keith isn't aware of this yet, so he feels his stomach drop when he calls his dad from prison the next day and hears this.
They've got evidence, Keith.
What?
Video.
Of what?
They're listening to this conversation. All I can say, you're looking at 30 years, max 20 years minimum.
Jesus.
Keith had carefully planned to get away with the murder, even pretending to help with the investigations and avoid growing suspicion from the cops.
Who do you think accidentally shot her?
Not me. Myself.
However, Keith made the big miscalculation of not turning off his home cameras, and this began his downward spiral. Because detectives would then discover that Keith's secrets are even bigger and darker than anyone imagined.
Do you feel like he'd be capable of harming you eventually if you stayed with him in the relationship?
Yeah. Would you say that his behavior made you concerned for your safety?
No question, yeah.
Brandi's death was a symptom of something worse, something inevitable.
Yeah, you push a person to either beat or kill you because you're...
It's 10:37 a.m. on the 7th of April, 2018, and the Flagler County Sheriff's Office receives this 911 call.
Flagler County 911, where's your emergency?
Yes, may I have an officer over at 23 Shelter Lane?
Okay, what's going on there?
I was in the shower. I heard gunshots. I think that my wife accidentally shot herself.
Do you see her?
Yes.
She able to say anything to you?
Baby. Hey. Baby, no.
That's Keith Johansen reporting the death of his wife, and he's about to say something really strange.
Oh, are you applying pressure to that wound?
No, I can't reach her like that. I'm wet. I'm sliding on my floors.
Okay, but you can't reach down to her and apply pressure on the gunshot wound.
No, I can't. No, I can't.
Do you see the police out there?
Yes, sir.
All right, go talk to the police.
The police have made their way to his house, and once they arrive at the scene, they pull Keith and Ryland Bruce, Brandi's son, and Keith's stepson, out to the front porch. They begin questioning Keith, and his description of events leaves them feeling that something is terribly wrong.
So Keith, what's going on today?
Nothing.
You guys were talking?
Yeah, man, we got up. I took a shower. Just made her coffee.
Okay. What time did you guys wake up?
Shower. I heard boom, boom, boom. I got out, and she was laying on the floor with guns right next to her. And I was like, no. Okay. So I called you guys immediately.
How many shots did you hear?
2.
So you got in the shower. How long were you in the shower? What'd you say?
Maybe 5 minutes.
5 minutes. All right.
Please tell me that you can.
Hey, listen, man. I haven't even gone in there yet. I've been talking to you. All right.
Just got married, man.
While Keith speaks to the cop outside, one of the officers who's just inspected the crime scene begins to signal to the others that Keith might be responsible. And he's not the only one. Soon, all the other cops on the crime scene find a lot of gaps, comparing Keith's story with the story the crime scene is telling.
He's got a lot of scratches on him?
Yeah.
And he's not wet?
No.
He said he was in the shower?
Yeah. The thing is, the shower is underneath his shirt.
Under her shirt?
Under his shirt.
Where?
Casing. It's like right at the foot of the bed.
But dude, he's got scratches and blood all over him. And he said that he was in the shower. He's not wet at all.
Keith, meanwhile, continues to put up his sad husband act.
What do I do?
I don't know at this point, all right?
There is no God.
Huh?
There is no God. I don't understand why he would do this to us.
Was she having any kind of difficulties?
Not really. She gets depressed once in a while, but
She
nothing.
wasn't having anything.
No, nothing like mentally.
It's not clear what happened to Brandi, but one thing seems obvious. Keith is hiding something. So, around 11:20 a.m., police transport Keith to the station for further investigation. While Keith waits, the child protection team interviews Ryland. It's during this interview that they discover that Keith already taught Ryland the lies to say. More importantly, Ryland claims he heard his mom scream before the shots. Armed with information like this, the detectives go into Keith's interview. But things begin to get a little weird when Keith can't help but laugh as he remembers his now dead wife.
So, I would say our relationship was, okay, with the exception of a little bit of bickering here and there. You know?
Was she, when you guys would bicker, was she a yeller? Was she a screamer?
Sometimes.
At this very moment, the male detective, Chris Takopoulos, begins to size up Keith and notices bloodstains on Keith's pants. He's taken aback, but decides to keep quiet about it. The pants will be taken at the end of the interview and sent for analysis. I want you to remember this detail for later. It's important. Right now, Keith reveals something even more shocking. He claims that Brandi had confessed to flirting with someone online.
So you said this conversation happened about a week ago with her online, whatever she was doing.
She brought something up a couple days ago. And we had a little argument, but then that was that.
Can you tell me about that?
Yeah. She was like, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. And I was like, okay.
What is this and that?
She was going to get rid of everything. And I was like, okay, well, make sure you do so. And, you know, it's on you if you don't. You know what I'm saying? I wouldn't know because obviously you hit it for the song. You know? I wouldn't know if you did or not, but I hope you do. You know? She was like, okay, cool. And we had arguments here and there, you know what I mean? She would be like, I'm sorry, I'll stop.
Infidelity is a major driver for men who kill their wives, so if there ever was a motive for Keith, this could be it. They ask him to recall the scene again, and that's when they notice some inconsistencies in his story.
So those two guns, were they hers or yours?
They were mine and hers, kind of.
So you just had the two guns open in between the bed frame and the mattress?
Correct.
And with them there, were you concerned that them not being in a holster, they would go off, or did they have safeties?
One of them had a safety, one didn't.
Okay.
The one that didn't usually was never cocked.
Okay.
Because of that fact. And all my other guns have 2 or 3 rounds in them that are rubber.
Oh, why?
Just for, in case something, you know, you have a misfire or whatever. If someone was to rob us or whatever, I don't want to kill them. I mean, honestly, I don't want to kill them.
The detective asks why all but the 2 guns involved in the murder were not being kept in a safe.
And what did you say the reasoning was you kept those 2 out?
Just to have out, there was, you know, just for protection-wise. Because let's say something was to happen in the middle of the night or whatever, someone was trying to rob you, we just moved there, so we don't even know the people around us.
Sure.
Easy access.
Keith's explanation is making the detective's head spin. Because if one of the guns has a safety and the other one is never cocked, then how did either or both guns let off 2 fatal shots accidentally? Well, things are about to get even more confusing.
Well, and for her to have accidentally shot herself, which with what you already told us, she would have either had to taken the safety off of one, or she would have had to cock it back of the other one.
If it was cocked or not, I don't know.
Can I just ask you a question?
Sure.
So most of your guns have the rubber rounds in them?
Yeah.
So all of them except for those 2 have the rubber rounds?
Yes. I ran out of them. I didn't have enough to put in them.
Okay.
So far, Keith seems to have a convenient excuse for everything, but he soon slips up when the detectives ask him a question he's not prepared for.
Who do you think accidentally shot her?
Not me. Herself.
Is there any chance at all that something different happened that you have not told us?
None. Because that's what happened. I got no reason to lie, you guys. I mean, you guys are investigators, for God's sake.
Well, I mean, you said you have no reason to lie. I mean, I'm not saying that you're flat out lying to us. That's not what I'm saying at all.
Okay.
What I am saying is that what we have at the scene does not add up to what you're telling us.
There are several reasons Keith's story is an obvious lie. If it was a misfire, as Keith had said, the bullet would have followed a different trajectory, perhaps upwards. Instead, the bullet's trajectory, at first glance, seems to show that Brandi was shot in front of the south nightstand, gone through the nightstand, and through the wall behind it as well. Keith gets defensive and decides to stop speaking to the detectives until his parents arrive.
Thank you. The lawyer? Fucking murder.
I know. I didn't do it. I didn't say you did. But you gotta be prepared for them to try to do that.
They're trying to tell me that Ryland said that there was a scream. There was no scream that I heard. I've been as honest as I can.
Well, that's all you can be, but don't you clam up. You're lawyered up now. Shut your mouth. Don't say another word.
While the convo is going on, Detective Christopoulos is at the door, about to come in.
There was a bunch of people there on their trucks, and they were taking... I says, you know what, guys? Let's have a little respect.
Yes, sir. That's ridiculous.
Hi.
Can I talk to you outside real quick?
All right, I'm gonna knock on the door. It's April 7th, 2018, 7:03 p.m. I'm gonna knock on the door and talk to the suspect's father real quick. Sorry.
Hi.
Can I talk to you outside real quick? So here's the thing is, we've got somebody and they tell us, a gun fell on the ground and went off and shot her. But twice?
The possibility that she shot herself and then the gun dropped and went off again.
It's not a probable thing, I can tell you that. Would a prudent person believe that two guns were dropped at the same... And we're going to know... eventually we're going to know which bullets came from which gun. So if there's one bullet from one gun and one bullet... we're going to know that stuff eventually.
Gary now has doubts in his mind. He returns to speak with Keith, and for the first time, he considers the possibility of Keith being guilty.
I'm not blaming you, Keith.
Well,
listen to me, though. Listen to me. I believe you didn't. But I didn't. But if you did, own up to it.
But things are moving so fast, and Gary isn't sure what to believe at several points of the conversation. Then, Keith's mom joins the convo and leaves Gary battling a storm in his mind.
Well, you would never hurt anybody. You have never even hit anybody.
I know.
By nightfall, Gary has done a full 180 and even proposes something really disturbing.
Something bugs me, though. Ryland said he heard a scream and then two pops. Did anybody check Ryland for residue?
Maybe he touched one of them.
Maybe he played with the guns.
It's remarkable seeing just how easy the Johansens can accept the possibility that a 6-year-old can take his own mother's life undetected and lie through it convincingly. Yet, they completely block out the idea that their 36-year-old son, the most obvious suspect, would ever hurt anybody. In fact, they would try to pin Brandi's death on Ryland several times during the investigation, but they'll soon realize that claiming that Keith would never hurt anyone couldn't be further from the truth. In fact, Brandi was not his first victim. In the coming days, detectives would interrogate Keith's ex-wife and ex-girlfriend, and what they discover would make even his parents shudder. First, they talked to Ashley Morton on the 8th of April. Ashley is Keith's ex.
Honestly, Keith is the most devastating relationship I probably have ever been in. I've had my fair share of relationships, being 29, and it's probably the one relationship I still reflect on.
So he was, it was mostly emotional abuse, basically?
Yes.
But
I think that if we had stayed together, it could have been potentially more than that.
So you felt like he'd be capable of harming you eventually if you stayed with him in the relationship?
Yeah.
Although Ashley said Keith mostly abused her emotionally, her mother, Michelle, claimed that it was worse.
First of all, why do you think that if his wife did die, that he would be capable of doing that? I mean,
I know in the article physically abused my daughter.
He has in the past?
Yes, I moved her out of that relationship and moved her in our house to keep her away from him. He was giving me a hard time because I wouldn't let Ashley near him, because I was stopping them from going out.
So how was he giving you a hard time?
He was calling me. He was sending me pictures of his nuts. Just being a nut.
Would you say that his behavior made you concerned for your safety?
No question, yeah.
Next, the cops would find even more shocking details from Keith's ex-wife, Stacy Johansen.
I would come home from work and, go to sleep, and I would wake up with him touching me, and it made me very uncomfortable. To me, I would call it like a marital molestation.
As we will find out from the recordings recovered from Keith and Brandi's bedroom, this detail is actually important because Keith was doing the same thing to Brandi, but worse, and it was all caught on video. Keith was desperate for the recordings to not get accessed. First, he gives the detectives incorrect login details through his lawyer. Then, still faking cooperation with the investigation, he heads down to the sheriff's office himself on the 19th of April to help them log in.
Do you know your Gmail password?
No, it's on my phone. You guys got everything.
Okay, you don't know your Gmail account password? Okay.
What Keith doesn't know is that 6 days before now, on the 13th of April, a search warrant had already been issued to the home security camera company, Arlo, to get the videos. And on the 26th of April, the cops receive the video. They're hoping they'll find something that brings closure to the case and Brandi's family. But what they see in the video is likely to leave Brandi's family in complete terror.
So much. You've been threatened to kill yourself. You're going to spend the rest of your days in an institution. I can throw you there tomorrow.
Next, Keith would make direct murder threats to his wife.
You push a person to either beat or kill you because you're... I could call one of my homies and make sure you both die. You'd be on my mind.
Why?
Because I gave up everything on a chance. Somebody lied. Cheats. Does this and that. Gave you too many goddamn chances. Man, too many. Show a cop these videos. I don't give a... I'd rather be in prison. Jesse reads it. You know what? I'm gonna leave it here to haunt you. Maybe one day you will.
That's not all. Keith would go on to do some truly terrible things to Brandi. Some of it is too graphic to show you here. But just so you get the picture, at one moment, Keith coerces Brandi to continuously masturbate with a sex toy while he belittles her over and over again. From the looks of it, Keith is fully aware of Brandi's struggles with her mental health and was trying to push her over the edge so she could kill herself. When that wouldn't happen, he did it himself. The recordings on the day Brandi was killed show her alive here at 10:34 a.m., just 3 minutes before Keith's 911 call. She walks into the master bedroom. Moments later, Keith walks out of the room and begins making the call. As you can see, contrary to his stories, he's not naked, he's not slipping everywhere, he's not even in his room during the call. The only time he runs is when he tries to hide his stash of weed before the cops come. And since Keith will still try to blame Ryland for the murder of his mom, it's important to note that Ryland is not visible in these recordings. The detectives have seen enough. They grab a warrant from the courthouse, then head to Keith's mom's house to arrest Keith. But he's aware that the walls are closing in, and sooner or later, authorities will discover the tapes. So Keith begins plotting a new story that will shock everyone when it's heard in court. From the moment he gets arrested to the several calls he has with his parents, you will see in real time that this new story is being formed already. Moments before the arrest, Detective Christokopoulos receives a call giving a conclusive report that Keith's pants from back then were worn in the vicinity of the crime. Now, the cops have no doubt in their mind. The day after he's arrested, Keith's parents reveal to him that the jig is up.
What did the lawyer have to say?
You really want to know?
Yeah.
They're listening to this conversation.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm not going to say much. All I can say is with the charges you have, there is no probation, and you're looking at 30 years max, 20 years minimum.
Jesus. You kidding me?
Nope.
Damn.
There's evidence. They have video. They've got evidence, Keith, and they've even got enough evidence that your lawyer said, I can say this, that the lawyer said that they can take it to whoever and charge you with murder one, and then in the state of Florida, guess what they do, Keith? All I can say, Keith, is be honest.
I am. I didn't do it.
The more honest you are, the better off it'll be for you.
To my mind's recollection, I don't know, Mom. I didn't do it.
Well, there is a video, so keep thinking, and it shows you.
It shows me on video.
Yep.
As the days go on, Keith's motives would finally be understood. You see, the cameras and laptop in their bedroom were actually being used by the couples to record their ritual of masturbating together, and sometimes Brandi would masturbate without Keith. In the recordings, Keith is heard and seen threatening Brandi for this reason several times. By the time October of 2021 came around, it was time for Keith's court hearing, and he and his lawyer had come up with a story that shocks everyone.
You're going to hear a different backstory on this case. Ms. Celenza was killed in self-defense.
Keith has done a full 180 and now claims that his wife was high on methamphetamines and acting weirdly that morning as she tried to attack him with the Beretta. So he defended himself with the Canic. But all the evidence is set before the jury in Keith's hearing, and everything from the sexual control to his conversations with his parents is examined. The courtroom goes cold when this particular conversation with his mom is played.
We're going to talk together, and I think Ryland needs to see you guys and Kira. So
What if it was him?
I don't know, Keith. He's a little boy.
I know.
The evidence and the odds stack high like a mountain in front of Keith, and the judge and jury know it. Keith receives the verdict after 2 hours of deliberation. Keith is found guilty of first-degree murder. He's sentenced to life without the possibility of parole. His plans of escaping in plain sight have failed comically. Justice is served.